All right. Someone asked me earlier if you can de-blouse. Yes, you can de-blouse while you're in here. Just before you go anywhere, right, you need to put your blouse back on. Everybody good? All right. Excellent. So we did INDOC already. So IT Essentials is the first course you're going to go through, and then you're going to be going through CCNA, and then comms. All three of those are going to be in this classroom here. The network that you logged in today, that's going to be used for IT Essentials, ITE, and CCNA. The other button, right, switches the network, that'll be for comms, and we'll give you computer access around the time you start comms for that. We'll talk about CCNA when we get to CCNA, and we'll talk about comms when we get to comms. But for IT Essentials, ITE, that's our first course. That's 27 days long. There are, 16 chapters, I believe? 14 chapters. That must be for CCNA. So we'll segment each chapter out and discuss everything that's in those chapters that you need to know for the course, what's relevant for being an IT in the Navy as well. You all have that schedule, so you can see what we're going to be doing each day. You can see your homework. So for you all, the Chapter 1 exam is going to be homework tonight, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the day. You do have to take all of those chapter exams and receive above a 70 while you're in this course. So if you don't do that, right, especially by the time of the midterm, then that's justification for either being academically set back or being dropped from training, which is definitely not something that you want. Those tests are not a part of your grade, but they are a requirement for the course. The things that you will be graded on, the first thing in that second column on that sheet I gave you is your midterm. You're going to have a midterm knowledge and a midterm skills exam. Both of your midterms are going to be on chapters 1 through 9 for both the skills and the knowledge. The final exam is just going to be on chapters 10 through 14 for both the knowledge and the skills portion. Hoo-yah? Okay, any questions on that? Any questions on what we can expect for ITE or anything like that? Okay, next I'm going to run you through kind of how to navigate Netacad and see everything on there. So I'm going to push my screen to your computers. Thank you. So we can see that. So when you log into netacad.com, which is short for Network Academy, it'll bring you up to the My Learning tab. Mine is going to be under My Classes, so we'll just click here. Now, when you first open it, you're going to see the content section here. At the top, you have assignments, content, gradebook, and announcements. So in the assignments, you can just see the Chapter 1, and then the Chapter 1 exam, which is going to be homework tonight. And what do we need to get on that exam? 70, right? So use that as a study tool. You can take it multiple times, but those are all there. Then we have the Content tab. So you can see all of the chapters. So if I click on Chapter 1, right, it expands into the different sections. Like we have 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, etc. If I click on 1.1, we can see there's 1.1.1 and 1.1.2. So you can navigate to wherever you want to go to. There is a dark mode feature. Ooh. So you can do that. You can go full screen with that icon there, and then you navigate with these left and right icons here. You can get out of this by hitting the escape key or by hitting exit full screen. You also have a search function. You could search for something such as RAM. And you can see everywhere where that RAM is mentioned, each slide or section. And I can click on that there, and it'll go right to where it's discussed. So that's a great study tool for you, or you're not sure about something. Use that search function so you can hone in your studying. Easy day? Easy day. Okay. And that's for the entire class. You can just go to the different chapters, like Chapter 5, etc. Then you have resources. So if I add resources, That's where this will be here, and I'll let you know when we add things in there. Easy day? All right. Grade book, that's not for you. And announcements. I'll put announcements here, like for your homework. Even though you all have that printout, I'll put it on here as well in case you forget or there is a change. Easy day? All right. Let's get started with Chapter 1. All right, Introduction to Personal Computers. So this course, IT1 talked about yesterday, is usually a semester long. We're going to do it in 27 days. The difference for you, though, is usually in high school or college, right? You're going to a class for an hour a day or several times a week. We're in here for 6 hours a day, right? And the difference is for college, you're paying to go to college. Here, you're getting paid to learn, right? And you do get college credits for this. We're an ACE and COE certified, so you do get some college credits as long as you pass. So this is going to be a little bit fast-paced, but remember to ask questions. This course, IT Essentials, is, well, let me fix your screens later. This is an introductory level course. See, if you know nothing about computers, you don't know how to power it on, you don't know what this is called, or what this is called. What's this called? Keyboard. We're already ahead of the game. All right? Awesome. However, right, some of it may seem really slow from the beginning. There's a lot of nuances or little bits of information. What's this called? What's this called? Etc. So we're all going to start kind of at the bottom, and we're going to build up our base of knowledge as if we know nothing about computers. Easy day? You're super excited. You already know all this stuff? All right. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, if you want to navigate this for me. All right, so Chapter 1. This is our base. This is where we're going to be starting. Talking about safety, what a computer is. We're going to start defining the terms, the internal hardware of what makes a computer be able to function. So computer, we've used that word a few times. Can someone tell me, in their own words, what a computer is? Yeah.
It's a basic technology that you can use for many different functions as like research, knowledge, and building your own personal site.
Research, knowledge, finding things out. Has anyone seen the movie Hidden Figures? What did they call the ladies in that movie? They called them computers, right? But they weren't, there was no monitor or something. They called them computers because they were doing computing, right? They were doing calculations, right? So that is the purpose of a computer, is to do some sort of calculation. It's not to watch TikTok videos, to go on the internet, right? That's a feature of a computer nowadays. But the purpose of a computer is to do a calculation, to compute something. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so that's what a computer is. So let's watch a video on what a computer is. Double click, full screen.
Hello everyone, let's take a look at what's inside of a computer. Now to start off, computers have changed drastically. What we can see here is this little computer can do everything we see on my desk right now. We can connect to speakers and a monitor, keyboard and mouse, and even a these things aren't as powerful as this graphics card here. That graphics card there, well, that would be something like this. Something big and beefy to play your games, to things such as virtual reality and 3D, you name it. That's where that goes. Now, these graphic card ports here, it's built into the motherboard, not as powerful. Down below, I've got 4 USB ports to connect more external devices and components, and I also got a built-in networking jack. Why 2 networking jacks? Because one might be built into the system board, and another one might be awesome for gaming and high performance. Let's take a look at the inside of this case and see what else we have going on here. Let's get inside the box. So we'll take off this side panel here, and we'll get into the internals of our computer system. So we take a look at the inside of this computer system. One of the first things we see is this fan here. And this fan is sitting on top of these fins. And these fins have one job, to keep the CPU underneath cool. That CPU is going to be executing instructions and running programs. And that CPU is going to get really hot really fast. That heat's going to go to these fins, and this fan here is going to cool down those fins. Now, what's that CPU doing? Well, as our computer system takes an input, it's going to be taking the information. That information is going to be processed through that CPU, and it's going to be stored in things like this hard drive here, or right here on these memory sticks. So these memory sticks, they're called our RAM. And these RAM sticks here are going to temporarily store data so it can be executed faster by our CPU. When we store data permanently, let me put on this hard drive over here, which is a solid state drive. An example of that would be my solid state drive right here. These solid state drives are going to retain data and be able to read and write data very fast. Now besides that, we have some expansion cards here, and these are going to be our graphics card and that network card we saw earlier. These are in expansion slots, which give us more functionality. It adds more to our system board. Where's the system board? Well, that system board is this entire motherboard down below, which is attached into our computer case. This motherboard is full of different components and capacitors and circuitry. It allows our entire computer system to be able to be sending and receiving data. At the top here, I've got an optical drive. That optical drive uses those old-style CD, DVD discs. Yep, that can temporarily store data on a CD or DVD. Up here, this is our power supply. This is providing power down to all the components within the system, including the main board itself. That's system board. This power supply will attach to your wallet and give you the power needed to run all of your components inside. Whether you have a small graphics card or you're dropping in the latest and greatest beefy ones in order to run anything you want to throw at your system, including gaming, homework assignments, as well as business and productivity. So get started identifying what is inside of your computer and become an IT professional.
All right, so you probably have some questions after that video, I'd imagine. You can see we're jumping right into all of this stuff. Now, some of these videos may be a little bit boring, and whatever they discuss in the videos, we're gonna talk about. So that was a lot of cables and components. So that's just kind of a brief, high-level overview of the terms that we're going to be going over in this chapter. Does anyone have any questions so far on that video? Okay, so first we're going to talk about some safety things. So computers, they use, if you didn't know, electricity to operate. Really, it's just rocks, different metals inside a box, and we send different electricity through, and that's what allows the computer to operate. So because of this, Chavez, stand up, Chavez, right? We've got to think about safety, right? Electricity can shock us and other things like that. So the power supplies, they have high voltages. Inside, we have different things. We have commercial power. So that comes from a power plant somewhere and then comes onto base or into your building. That comes in as AC, or alternating current. However, your computer uses what's called direct current, or DC. So if we look at an outlet, right, that's AC. That's alternating current coming out of the wall, coming from commercial power. And your power supply is what's converting it to direct current. One of the ways it does that is with capacitors. They're like mini batteries that store and ensure the proper power goes to various components. So inherently, there's going to be some risk with that. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay, awesome. Let's scroll down. So on the left here, we can see an image of what a power supply looks like. Now, from the wall, what type of electricity is that? AC. And our computer uses DC. So what converts AC to DC? The power supply. And you may see that shortened to PSU for Power Supply Unit. PSU. Fortunately for you, you're in the Navy, and the Navy loves acronyms. You're also working on becoming an IT, which there's a lot of acronyms as well. So get used to remembering a significant number of acronyms. Let's scroll down some more. So the first thing we're going to talk about is ESD, electrostatic discharge. You may have experienced this before. I assume some of you have worn socks before in your life. If you go across carpet and you're wearing socks and you rub them and then you touch someone's head, what happens? It shocks them, right? That's electrostatic discharge. Another example would be if you take a balloon filled with air and you rub it over, maybe not my hair, someone that has hair, right? You rub it, what would happen to their hair? It starts to stand up, right? That's electrostatic discharge as well. So that's what we as humans can experience. However, computers and their components inside are a bit more sensitive than we are. So for us, in order to feel electrostatic discharge, it's going to be 3,000 volts. So for you to feel it, right? Have you ever been shocked before? Yes. That's at least 3,000 volts before you can feel it. If it makes a noise or if it causes pain, that's over 10,000 volts. So for you to even feel it as a human, that's 3,000. If it causes pain or a noise like a pop, how many volts is that? 10,000. However, for a computer, they can be damaged with as little as 30 volts. So that's a big difference, right? 3,000 for you to feel it, a factor of 100 less, 30 volts, right? You don't even know that, right? You can't even begin to feel like that there's electrostatic discharge. You could be touching computer components and you could be damaging them, not knowing it. And then let's say you are upgrading a computer or building a computer. You're so excited building your first computer, you're installing all the components, you power it on, and it doesn't work. Well, you don't know which component is broken, and you're going to have to replace one at a time to figure out which piece is broken. Does that make sense to everybody? Awesome. So that's ESD, electrostatic discharge. What are some ways that we can prevent electrostatic discharge? Coffee?
Making sure you're grounded.
Making sure you're grounded. Now, what does that mean? Well, electricity, right? You've probably seen lightning, right? Kind of goes from top to down and into the earth, right? So if we properly ground things, the electricity will have a path of lowest resistance. And we want to ensure that that's not going to go through different things that we don't want to experience that electricity. Does that make sense to everyone? So we've got a few different grounding mechanisms. We have a grounding mat that our computer can rest on, and we'll take a piece of metal that's wrapped in plastic, we'll attach it to an unpainted metal portion of the chassis, and then to that grounding mat. We can also ground the computer to ourselves. So that way we take what's called an anti-static wrist strap. A piece of metal will be attached to our wrist, and the other end will be attached to an unpainted metal portion of the chassis, the case of the computer. So that way when you're touching inside, you've grounded yourself because you may not know that you're damaging the computer. How many volts can damage from ESD a computer? 30 volts. How many for you to feel it? 3,000. What about to cause pain or noise to hear it? 10,000. Very good. So that's why we want to ground ourselves. It's not for your safety, it's for the computer's safety. Does that make sense to everybody? Chang, good? Okay. So we use grounding mats, anti-static wrist straps. And we go into the lab, and later on in chapters, I'll show you that as well. And here we can see an image kind of electrostatic discharge. All right, let's check our understanding. I'm going to read these out, and then you tell me which one it should go to. So it takes this many volts for a person to feel an electrostatic discharge. 3,000. All right, we'll put A to 3,000. This is a buildup of an electrical charge that exists on a surface which comes into contact with another different charged surface. Static electricity. Or we call it ESD, which is short for electrostatic discharge. Very good. This should be attached to you when working inside computers. So that one end's attached to us and the other end is attached to a non-painted metal portion of the chassis. Very good. It takes this many volts to damage a computer component. 30. Very good. Let's submit that. Look at that. And we got it right. Close pop-up. Very good. Anyone want this printed out for their fridge? No? Okay. All right. And we'll go to the next section.